the kid character does something reckless and somewhat egotistical, or like it's short-sighted, and he's getting immediately scolded. And there's consequences because he created a problem and then they had to solve that problem. And now he's getting called out for creating that problem. And where was this in TCW with Ahsoka? Ahsoka was supposed to appeal to girls. She was supposed to bring girls into the fandom. And there's this mentality of you can't have nobody holding a girl to account, especially not guys. That's what Ahsoka was. You can't have people calling out your girl power character because then it's not girl power. It's just, hey, here's a character that's a girl. You can have a character who's competent without them being able to succeed in everything. And so I feel like Ezra showed that there, right? Like he wasn't able to help take on the Inquisitor like Ahsoka helped take on Ventress with Luminara. Like he tries to help, right? But the tools at his disposal do not faze the Inquisitor. So then he pivots.
Do or do not. There is no try.
What does that even mean?
Actually, that one always confused me too, but Master Yoda sure used to say it a lot.
It's interesting because, again, it's one of those callbacks, but then they kind of diminish it, right? Like, oh, it was just some weird thing nobody understands, but he used to just always say that, right? Like, so it's like you're taking an iconic moment and then you're disrespecting it.
To be fair, I don't like that line. It's very defeatist.
I don't agree, right? Because you either do or you do not.
Tell that to the guy who invented the light bulb, and wasn't his saying, if at first you don't succeed, try again? There is trying in doing. There's a lot more trying than doing in most cases. Are you just gonna tell people, stop trying? If you can't do it, then just give up.
You don't understand. Every time he tried and failed, he did not do it. And then he tried again, and he did it. So there only is do and do not. So you either do it, you succeed at it, or you do not succeed at it. You don't do it.
Okay, but still a very defeatist statement.
The thing is, he was speaking to Luke's mentality in that moment, and Luke was like, I guess I'll try, right? Like Luke's attitude in that moment was, I'm gonna give it my all. He was like, oh, I guess I'll try, right? Like he was half-hearted. And so that's what Yoda was speaking to. He was like, no, either you do it, bro, or you don't do it. Don't go in with this half-hearted attitude of, I guess I'll try. That was Yoda's point, at least the way I understand it. Yeah, I think it's a pretty iconic line, right? Like it's saying, give it your all. Like, don't pretend. If you're not gonna give it your all, don't pretend like you are, right? Just admit that you're not gonna do it. So that's the way I've always seen it. And because I'm always right, then yeah. Moving on.
Come on, kid, do something. Amuse me.
How is him hanging upside down like that? How is that not amusing?
Having a laser sword doesn't make you a Jedi.
What? Why did he call it a laser sword?
I would throw that droid overboard. Also, probably practicing on the ship while it was in the air was not a good idea.
You wouldn't have been falling to your death if you were focused. You're undisciplined and full of self-doubt.
Dude, that's a little harsh.
It's difficult to teach.
He means it's difficult to teach you.
Gee, thanks. He's just starting out. Cut him some slack.
I can understand Kanan, because he's absolutely right. It is hard to teach. It requires so much patience to teach. And then, yeah, in a situation like that, it sounds like you get scared, right? Because kid was in danger. and that can come out as like anger, like, no, you should have done better. So I can get that, whether it's in character or not. I don't really know if I feel confident saying that, because I don't fully have a firm picture of Kanan yet. But that moment there is believable. Zeb coming in and just being a total jerk, like, Zeb's character has been kind of difficult to pin down so far. So on the one hand, it's like, I guess it's in character because he flip-flops between like a nice guy and a complete jerk. But yeah, that was harsh.
Jedi Master Luminara Unduli is alive.
This Luminara, you knew her?
She was a great Jedi Master. Brave, compassionate, disciplined.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm actually shocked, given how he spits on her in season 7, that here he's acknowledging that she's a good person. Definitely a good Jedi.
It's one of those things where I feel like the fans almost influence Filoni to a degree. Because, yeah, it seemed like after the backlash started against Luminara, then, yeah, season 7 came out and they were just full on bashing her.
But because as I understand it, TCW became more hyped after the sequel trilogy. And this is before the sequel trilogy. So at this point, yeah, whether like the fans were really ripping into Luminara for how she treated Ahsoka and Barriss probably wasn't as big a thing then. But then after TCW kind of resurges in popularity and people are all up in arms because Ahsoka was talked down to, and it's all Luminara's fault that Barriss went completely out of character. Yeah, suddenly Filoni's characters are talking a little differently about her.
She'd make an excellent teacher for you.
You hear that? He's done with me. He's gonna pawn me off on some stranger.
Yeah, so I kind of hate Chopper, but that's an interesting reaction, right? Like, that instead of being like, oh, I'll get a good teacher, he's like, oh, so you're just giving up on me.
Welcome to the Spire on Stigen Prime. It's impregnable, blast-proof, ray-shielded, protected by anti-ship weapons, TIE fighters, and short and long-range scanners.
How do they have all this knowledge? Or rather, how does Sabine have all this knowledge?
The thing is, she was Imperial, but did she ever specifically go to Stigen Prime? I don't think that's a thing that would happen for an Imperial cadet. What do they do? Have sightseeing tours?
And it's like, even if she did, how long ago was this? You don't think maybe things have changed? I mean, like, in general, the security level would probably stay the same. Yeah, like, I don't know.
Sorry, Chop. We just don't need your damaged logic circuits on this one.
Thank you. How about you just, like, permanently get rid of him based on that alone? Feel like that'd be very reasonable. Much more reasonable than keeping him around.
Kid White, what are you doing?
What just happened? You were supposed to exit with Zeb. You're lucky every stormtrooper in the prison doesn't know we're here. Stunts like that put us all in jeopardy.
Have you noticed something? Have you noticed what I have noticed? Have you noticed something that I have noticed? He's using the Force primarily, rather than his lightsaber. And the kid character does something reckless and somewhat egotistical, or like it's short-sighted, and he's getting immediately scolded. And there's consequences because, yeah, like he created a problem and then they had to solve that problem, and now he's getting called out for creating that problem. And where was this in TCW with Ahsoka? At worst, she got the scolding, but she never created any problems. She only created solutions, and then they would praise her afterward.
This show is much better than the Clone Wars.
Well, in that respect, there's still a lot of problems with this show. But so far, in regard to handling the main kid protagonist is doing way better. And I wonder it's because he's a guy.
Yup, I was thinking that too.
Because Ahsoka was supposed to appeal to girls. She was supposed to bring girls into the fandom. And there's this mentality of you can't have nobody holding a girl to account, especially not guys, because that's sexist somehow. But now you have a guy, so anybody can call him out. That's fine. You know, it's just like guys make mistakes, right? It happens. But girls, no, we have to respect the girl power. That's what Ahsoka was. You can't have people calling out your girl power character, because then it's not girl power. It's just, hey, here's a character that's a girl. And that's not good enough for some reason. But when you have a guy character, it's totally fine to treat them like an actual person with flaws that needs to be held responsible at times and praised at other times and get good dimension. So in that regard, Rebels is doing 100 times better than TCW. But in other ways, Rebels is, just kind of meh. I mean, we're already seeing problems with character work on other characters, and obviously the quality of animation, I feel, is a little cheaper, and we've already seen a few, like, plot problems and such like that.
Yeah, overall, the show is definitely subpar, at least so far, but even, like, taking that into account, I feel like the problems are not even half as bad, because we always talked about, like, the setups in TCW were absolute garbage. So you'd get through the first 5 minutes, you'd already find 1,000 problems, and then there'd just be more problems added on top of that for the rest of the episode. So yeah, overall, I'd still say Rebels is better, and this will probably be controversial, but I actually prefer the animation in this show to the animation in TCW. Fight me.
I think the biggest thing to state clearly is that just because we're saying Rebels is better than TCW doesn't mean that we're saying Rebels is a good show. Yeah. It's just better than TCW. TCW is on the floor. It's very easy to surpass the floor.
More like under the floorboards, I'd say.
That is exactly why you need Master Luminara to teach you discipline.
I was just following your example.
Yeah? Well, try to stay focused and follow the plan instead.
And right there, he tries to shift the blame onto Kanan, and Kanan's like, I ain't taking it. And you don't have another character going like, oh, well, I guess Kanan's new teaching method is do as I say and not as I do.
Such a stupid moment, and it just totally spit on Obi-Wan's character. He would never, ever, 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 ever have taken Ahsoka's side. Ever. I
think that's one of the benefits, again, of having a completely original cast, right? At least for them, it's a benefit, because I'm still struggling to figure out who these characters are, rather than going into it and being like, oh, well, I know who that character is, and I know who that character is, and then I'm immediately able to spot differences.
We need the kid to unlock the door.
I got it.
You're welcome.
Ow! You did your job. You want a medal?
Thank you!
I was going to say, when they were talking about, oh, you know, this prison fortress, we gotta go in, we gotta come out, right? I'm like, this is the Citadel arc. This is the Citadel arc. And it's just, again, when it's Ahsoka, you've got, oh, well, I guess it's a good thing I came along after all. And nobody says anything to her. No, later, someone tells her, you've become the most important part of this entire endeavor, even though you lied to just come along for the heck of it. And here, he's like, oh, see? Look at me. And he gets whacked across the head. You did your job. You want a medal? So much better! So much better!
Weren't we supposed to hold our escape route here?
Now the turbo lift is our escape route.
What if they disabled the turbo lifts?
Sabine's jammer is operating on the same frequency as these creatures. Hope I'm not needed anytime soon.
I don't see how that fixes the problem.
Maintain calm silence, and whatever you do, hold this lift.
But what about on the other end? I feel like they should have left at least one person on the other end.
Shouldn't you be guarding the Jedi's cell? It's on the next level. You better get moving.
We better get moving.
Yeah, I love the fact that Force users actually use the Force in this show.
Luminara will teach you. Much better than I could.
I find it interesting because, like, this whole thing is kind of establishing both characters' own insecurities. Because Kanan feels like he wouldn't make a good teacher. And Ezra feels like, yeah, Kanan's giving up on him. He's just trying to pass him off to a complete stranger. So that is interesting to see. I am enjoying that.
Is it really her?
Yes, but something's wrong.
I don't get the Luminara thing. I remember hearing about it before. So I was like, wait, what happens again? I know it's not her, but it is her, but like what? So her bones still have Force energy?
That makes sense, because the Force is in all things, so I could believe that, yeah, like, essentially her signature in the Force. I wouldn't be surprised if they did something like Vader or Palpatine or someone of a higher skill level than the Inquisitors, kind of. Because Palpatine basically has, like, Sith voodoo, so I wouldn't be surprised if he did something with her bones to kind of, like, amplify what was left of her signature, so to speak.
Because I was gonna say, like, are they just always sensing all the dead Jedi around the world as if they're alive? Is that why they burn them? So that they don't sense them anymore? Like, it just seems like really odd that now all of a sudden, like, even though the Jedi are dead and the Force is in all living things, but I mean, like, at the same time, the Force is in all inanimate things as well, right? It's in a rock, so it could be in a dry, dead bone, but it's like the essence of a person, right? Basically, their soul, if you will, seems to be what the Jedi sense, right? Because, like, when Alderaan is destroyed, Obi-Wan senses the people and then they're all gone. But again, maybe if you burn them all up, then they disappear. But if they all just die, I don't know. I personally don't think it makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely raises some questions, but it's not something that I feel like particularly ruins the episode for me. Like, it's something you can kind of get away with not explaining fully. Just give people an idea. Maybe there's something in Legends that I haven't seen yet, but I don't think that topic is ever really broached in Star Wars. Because the assumption by the Jedi, before they learned that you could, like, maintain your presence after death, was you die and you become part of the living Force. So, yeah, no, I have no idea.
I am the Inquisitor. It seems you trained with Jedi Master Depa Bilaba.
How? Who are you?
Bilaba's emphasis was always on Form 3, which you favor to a ridiculous degree. Really, you were a poor student.
Not a bad introduction. I mean, we saw him before, but this is really his introduction. Seems fairly intimidating.
And this is a sign of good writing, actually. It's doing more than one thing at once. It's introducing the villain to our main cast, setting him up as competent and intimidating, while also building on those insecurities of Kanan's. Good stuff.
Is that really all you've got, my boy?
Well, I've got that.
We mentioned this all the way back in addressing Ahsoka, which was one of our first videos talking about addressing Ahsoka. And we mentioned how it's like, you can have a character in this role who is competent in their inability, if you will. Like, I forget exactly how I worded it, but basically the idea was you can have a character who's competent without them being able to succeed in everything. And so I feel like Ezra, yeah, kind of showed that there, right? Like, he wasn't able to help take on the Inquisitor. Like, Ahsoka helped take on Ventress with Luminara. I'm seeing all these, like, reflections. Like, it's just almost like they're just, like, repackaging TCW.
I mean, like, it makes a lot of sense when, yeah, you know that, like, this, Rebels, was the story that Filoni originally wanted to tell. Of course, like, you'd see all these parallels between them, because he'd be thinking, like, oh, well, I had that idea for this story, but I can use it in this story.
I kind of see it as he has difficulty being original, so then he just takes what worked before and repackages it.
I think that's okay to a degree. Like, I think you can do that once or twice. Because there are, like, a few authors who all their stories are very similar. Like, there was one author whose books you lent to me who was like that. His stories basically felt pretty much the same, just with a different skin. And, like, that's not a bad thing. But yeah, like, after a while I was like, okay, these are all the same. And yeah, it's like, okay, can we have something else now? So yeah, you can do it once or twice. I think that'd be as far as you really want to go before, yeah, you need something original. You need something new.
I remember, I don't remember their name, the author's name, but I remember the series. Well, it's not really a series, but it's, you know, books by the same author. He follows the same kind of structure each time, but yes, gives it new characters, new plot. And yeah, I'm not trying to say that this is inherently bad because it reminds me of TCW. There's an aspect where if I had not seen TCW, like, I would not be considering that there's problems here. I'm just noting that I'm seeing similarities. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, except that with Filoni, he kind of has a track record. So I am commenting on the track record. But I am trying to get to talking about the Inquisitor. And so much has been said now that I forget. I forget what I was going to say.
I think a problem with reusing ideas is they become a little bit weaker every time you use them, I think. Because I've struggled a bit with that too. Like, I gravitate toward a certain character archetype, and I've noticed, yeah, that character basically appears in a lot of my work, so I've been trying to move away from that a bit more. So yeah, like with Filoni's works, you can definitely see every time he reuses an idea, it becomes more cheap.
Right, I was going to finish my comments on Ezra. How, yeah, instead of jumping in and helping with the Inquisitor, his competency in that moment is breaking them out. Using the tools at his disposal, like, he tries to help, right? But the tools at his disposal do not faze the Inquisitor. So then he pivots and he gets them out of there.
I was arguing with an Ahsoka fan just the other day, and they kept saying, oh, well, yes, Ahsoka's, like, so good at adaptability and problem solving and such. This is adaptability. This is problem solving. We hardly ever saw that from Ahsoka. And most of the time she was just stealing ideas from other people and then just taking the credit for it.
In order to problem solve, you have to run into problems. Ahsoka only ever has solutions. So yeah, we barely ever get to see her problem solve.
Your master cannot save you, boy. He is unfocused and undisciplined.
Then we're perfect for each other.
I like that response. Seeing more parallels. Because, yeah, like, Ahsoka was essentially just a mini Anakin, but 1,000 times worse. And you can see the same thing here. Like, they share some of the same flaws. And, like, yeah, on the one hand, it doesn't really make sense that would be seen as a good thing, because, like, yeah, there is the opportunity that they can learn and grow together by, like, yeah, seeing that mirror of themselves, essentially. It would compel them to make that step to grow out of these flaws that they have. But yeah, like, it also has the opposite problem, as I think we saw that a little bit with Anakin and Ahsoka, where their flaws just feed each other. So yeah, it can go one of two ways. So don't know if I entirely agree with Ezra's statement of, oh, we're perfect for each other, but in this situation, you cannot be picky because most of the Jedi are dead, so.
I kind of took his line of we're perfect for each other as him being like, well, if it's a problem with him, then it's a problem with me too. Like, you're trying to get me to turn against him to be like, oh, well, then he's a nobody. I'll go with you instead. And he's saying, it doesn't matter to me that he has flaws because I have flaws too. So to me, it was an acknowledgement that he's flawed, which is something that we never saw from Ahsoka. Any flaws she acknowledged, she was like, well, Master, I got this from you.
Secure the facility. Full lockdown.
Now I'm torn about the Inquisitor, because on the one hand, he was like really intimidating. But on the other hand, he's like, okay, lock everything down. And then he's just casually, intimidatingly strolling after them. And then the doors start to close. And he's like, oh shoot, I guess I better hurry and catch up to them. And then of course they get away. So it's like, maybe you should have prioritized actually being a bad guy as opposed to just feeling like a bad guy. But then again, it's like you can't have your bad guys be too competent because then that's the end of that. So I'm torn because it's like he had to be a little bit stupid in order for them to get away. Wait, I wanted to see what shape he cut.
Well, he's a Sith, so we know he wouldn't cut a perfect circle.
Together.
More stuff that we should have gotten with Anakin and Ahsoka working together.
I was gonna say, wow, a team. Where have we not seen this before?
Couldn't take that second to kick it back. Stormtroopers are so dumb.
And I'm bringing the fleet.
We have a fleet.
We do now.
That's a good character moment. It shows that she's smart because she takes a problem and she turns it into an advantage.
A bit convenient, but no, I'll agree with you there. The Inquisitor had not moved. Because I was just sitting here thinking, with all this stuff going on, he must be almost through that door by now. It has not moved. Feels like a Grievous thing. I guess the Inquisitor started cutting, and then someone's like, oh, tea time, and he's like, oh, really? Yeah, he started again as soon as they started running, and then he finished. Boomerang! You always do come back.
I genuinely can't wait to get to Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I guess he's stuck with me.
I'm letting you off the hook.
What are you talking about?
I know you wanted to dump me on Luminara.
I don't want to dump you. Look, I just wanted you to have the best teacher.
Well, I don't want the best teacher. I want you.
I like how they kind of utilize the subtext, right? Like, Kanan says, well, he's stuck with me. And Ezra hears, I'm stuck with him, right? So he's like, fine, I'm letting off the hook. You don't have to be stuck with me. And Kanan's like, well, no, I wasn't trying, right? So, and given that this is a kid's show, I don't have a problem with them kind of plainly talking things out. I like that in kids shows where they have healthy communication, they lay it out. And I feel like some kids shows are a little more heavy-handed than others. I think this is a nice balance, right? It's not pure we're saying exactly how we feel. So there is a little bit of subtext, but it's also clear enough they are having that communication. It's showing the benefits of clearly communicating how you feel and talking it out, resolving it, stuff like that, right? I think that's important.
I like that they only had this plot line for one episode, because I feel like anything longer than that would have just been dragging it out. So yeah, I'm glad they resolved it within an episode. But like the talking things out, I like that in any media, because like how many times have you seen people just not talking, and so this misunderstanding begins, and then it just grows and grows and grows, and they drag it out for so long, and it's like, you literally could have just resolved this if you just talked to each other. So like, yeah, definitely points for that.
I think my point was more so that like they're talking about it in a way that feels like it's characters talking on a show as opposed to real people, right? Because real people can talk things out, but there's still so many layers of like subtext, and like they'll talk about things without really talking about things, right? Because they're like talking about something else, but they both kind of understand that they're really talking about it, like that kind of thing. And you can absolutely do that in a kids show, but I kind of prefer that, especially when targeted at this younger age range, that they make it plain to model good behavior. Because that's important when you're targeting something at a young audience, that you model good behavior. Where have we not seen that happen before?
I'm not gonna try to teach you anymore. If all I do is try, that means I don't truly believe I can succeed.
Okay, I'll give it to you. That's fair.
At the beginning of the episode, I was like, it kind of feels like they're disrespecting the iconic line. But then when they bring it back around and acknowledge how I think it's what it's supposed to mean, then I like that. So that kind of redeemed it, in my opinion.
Also the fact that we actually get to see them train, which we never saw with Anakin and Ahsoka.
Though I think in this case, like, I understand to an extent about Ahsoka because she's already had 11 years of training before she becomes Anakin's Padawan. So you don't expect the same kind of like, oh, well, you have to learn how to do everything, so I guess I gotta train you on screen. But I do wish, because there was definitely things that she hadn't learned yet, like the mind trick and force visions and dual wielding. That was a huge one. She goes from not dual wielding to being perfectly fluent, I'm having trouble finding the right words, in dual wielding, like in the space between episodes. She just doesn't, and then she does. And it's like, you had a perfect opportunity to show her learning a new skill. Just why didn't you? Thank you. This has been my TED Talk.
So, do this stuff. If you enjoyed, give us a like, subscribe to the channel, comment below, tell us your thoughts. Let us know if you've seen any more parallels, because it's interesting talking about the parallels between TCW and this show. Share the video, and consider becoming a patron, because that would be awesome. Thank you very much. And thank you to those who are already patrons. You are fantastic. You are fabulous. And we love you. But not in a weird way.
And on that note, bye!